Lyra ran through the streets of her home, her lungs burning and her heart pounding. Smoke filled the sky, black and thick, turning the sun a dull red. Buildings she had grown up in were shattered, some on fire, others reduced to twisted metal and rubble. The sounds of screams, explosions, and the alien war machines clanging against walls filled the air. Everything she knew, everything she loved was falling apart before her eyes. Her parents, her little brother, her friends, all gone. She didn't know if they were dead or taken. She stumbled over a piece of debris and caught herself on a broken wall, tears blinding her. She had never felt so small, so powerless. Every instinct in her screamed for her to run, to hide, but she didn't know where to go. The alien raiders had come without warning, striking fast and cruel. Their ships had appeared in the sky, sleek and deadly, and their weapons had torn through the city like a storm. Lyra ducked into an alley, pressing her back against the cold wall. The smell of smoke and burnt metal was strong. She tried to steady her breathing, listening carefully. Somewhere nearby, she thought she heard footsteps, but not human. They were heavy, mechanical, precise. Her stomach twisted. The aliens were searching for survivors. She needed to move. She had no weapons, no help, just herself and her fear. She remembered the stories her father used to tell her about humans who survived against impossible odds, about colonies that had been abandoned and then rebuilt by people who refused to give up. Those stories felt far away now, almost like fairy tales. But something inside her stirred. Maybe it wasn't completely hopeless. Maybe, if she kept moving, she could find a way to survive. She ran again, careful to stay in the shadows, avoiding the streets where the alien patrols moved. Every corner she turned, she expected to be caught. Her legs ached, her feet bleeding from the debris she had stepped on, but she didn't stop. She had to keep going. She had to keep living. After what felt like hours, she came to the edge of the city. Beyond the ruins, she could see the rocky hills that led to the old airfield. The humans who lived here had been building ships and machines for years, trying to make life better for everyone. Maybe she could reach that place. Maybe there were people there who could help her. But even as hope flickered in her chest, fear pressed down on her. The aliens were fast. They didn't tire. They didn't hesitate. If they found her, she would be done for. She hugged herself, trying to remember how to breathe quietly, how to move silently, how to disappear in plain sight. She had no tools, no training, just her body and her wits. Lyra climbed over a broken wall and paused to catch her breath. She could hear the sound of alien machines in the distance, their engines humming like metal beasts. She pressed herself against the rocks, trying to stay hidden, and crawled slowly forward. Every step was measured, every breath quiet. She reminded herself that humans had survived worse. Humans had survived famine, war, and the harshness of space itself. Maybe she could survive too. The wind shifted and brought a new sound to her ears. A soft, rhythmic thump, almost like footsteps, but different. Not the heavy, clanging steps of the aliens, but something steadier, stronger. Curiosity mixed with caution. She peered over a rock and saw a figure moving toward her. It was tall, human-shaped, and carrying something that looked like a weapon, but not one of the alien devices. The human moved with confidence, scanning the surroundings carefully, yet nothing about him was frantic. Lyra's heart leapt. Could he be friendly, or was it a trap? She stayed low, hoping he wouldn't notice her. But then the human stopped, looked directly in her direction, and called out in a calm, strong voice, "Hey, you there, it's safe. Come this way." Could anyone be safe here? She had learned not to trust anything in the last few hours, not after seeing what the aliens were capable of. But something in the tone of the human's voice made her hesitate. It wasn't harsh or commanding. It wasn't the alien tone of superiority or cruelty. It was steady, reassuring. The human stepped closer, holding a hand up to show he meant no harm. "I won't hurt you," he said. "You're safe now." A door in the rock face behind him slid open, revealing a dimly lit passageway. "Come inside," he said. "We'll get you out of here." When she finally reached the door, the human gave her a small nod. "You're doing the right thing," he said. "Inside, you'll be safe. You can rest, and then we'll talk about what comes next." The walls were lined with panels, screens, and tools, but it wasn't like the alien technology she had seen outside. This felt different, familiar, almost home-like, despite the dim lighting. Other humans moved about calmly, checking instruments and equipment but giving her space. The human who had helped her led her further into the passage. "I'm Captain Roran," he said. "You're safe now, Lyra. You don't have to be afraid here." She allowed herself to take a deep breath, letting some of the tension leave her body. The fear didn't disappear. It wouldn't, but she felt something new, something strong, something human. Roran guided her to a small room with a cot and a blanket. "Rest," he said. "Eat something if you can. Tomorrow we start planning. We'll need you awake, strong, and ready. Humanity doesn't give up, Lyra. Not now, not ever." Outside, the city remained in ruins, smoke rising into the sky, and the alien ships patrolled the distance. But inside, in the human outpost, there was calm. There was hope. There was survival. And Lyra realized something she hadn't thought in a long time. Even when left with nothing, humans could rise and they could hold the line. She drifted into sleep, knowing that when she woke, she would be part of something greater than herself, something that would fight back and maybe, just maybe, win. Because humans never give up. Lyra woke to a soft hum of machinery and quiet footsteps outside her small room. The cot beneath her was firm but comfortable, and for the first time since the attack, she felt a strange calm. She sat up and looked around. The room was small but neat, with a few personal touches: books stacked in a corner, a small table with tools, and a warm blanket folded neatly. Humans moved in the corridors beyond, calm and purposeful, not the frantic survivors she had imagined. A knock at the door startled her. Captain Roran stepped inside, his presence calm but commanding. "Good morning," he said. "Sleep well." Even in the darkest times, humans find each other. We survive, we hide, we fight back when the time is right. That's what we do. That's who we are. Roran guided her down the corridor. "You'll eat, then we start training. You don't need to fight yet, but you will need to know how to move, how to survive, and how to use what we have to defend ourselves." Humans had survived far worse than this. She could survive too. The mess area was small but organized. Other humans were eating quietly, exchanging brief words as they planned repairs, checked instruments, or prepared supplies. They looked tired, but there was a spark in their eyes, resilience, determination, and a quiet strength. Lyra realized that despite their losses, these humans had not given up. She felt a flicker of pride and hope. "Eat something," Roran said, placing a tray of simple food in front of her. "You'll need strength for the day ahead." Some were repairing broken drones, others were working on communications equipment. Each one moved with purpose, like every action mattered. For the first time, she saw humans not as victims but as fighters, creative, determined, and united. After breakfast, Roran led her to a larger room filled with training equipment. Walls were lined with makeshift targets, obstacle courses, and practice weapons. It was not a luxury gym but a place built for survival. Humans had taken what they had and turned it into a training ground. "You'll start slow," Roran explained. "First, agility and awareness, then basic defense, then understanding alien technology and how we can use it." She had never held a weapon. She had never faced danger directly. But the stories her father told her of human ingenuity and courage flashed in her mind. She could do this. She had to do this. The first exercises were simple: moving silently, staying low, observing surroundings. Lyra stumbled at first, tripping over obstacles and misjudging distances. Roran corrected her gently, showing patience that was both comforting and motivating. "Humans adapt," he reminded her. "We learn fast, we think ahead. That's what makes us strong." Their strategies were simple but effective. They didn't rely on raw strength alone. They relied on creativity, coordination, and intelligence. Roran noticed her staring and smiled. "That's the key," he said. "Aliens may be stronger, faster, or more numerous. But humans, we adapt. We use our minds, our environment, and each other. That's why we survive, even when all seems lost." During a short break, Lyra walked among the other trainees. She saw people of all ages, each with their own scars and stories. Some had lost families, others homes, yet all carried a quiet fire within them. They shared tips, encouraged one another, and laughed softly despite the danger around them. Lyra realized this was humanity at its best, united, determined, and creative in the face of adversity. Roran approached her again. "Tomorrow, we start mission training, small operations to disrupt the alien supply lines. You'll see how humans take what's available and turn it into an advantage. You'll see that even when outnumbered, we can be stronger." She was not ready, she thought, but she remembered the moment Roran held the door open for her, told her she was safe, and showed her a path forward. If humans could survive against impossible odds, maybe she could too. The afternoon was spent learning about alien technology. Roran explained how humans had studied alien machines and weapons, finding patterns, weaknesses, and ways to repurpose them. Lyra was fascinated. Humans had nothing but determination and brains, yet they could turn the enemy's tools against them. As the sun set outside the outpost, casting long shadows across the rocky landscape, Lyra found herself walking along the edge of the compound. She looked out toward the destroyed city she had escaped, smoke still rising in the distance. The memory of loss was heavy, but now it was mixed with understanding. She had seen how humans could survive, rebuild, and fight back. She was not alone. Roran joined her silently. "You're doing well," he said. "Learning fast, but the most important lesson is this: humans never give up. Not when we have nothing, not when the world is against us. We fight, we adapt, we survive. That's what makes us human." And most importantly, she wanted to survive, not just for herself, but for all humans who had lost everything. That night, as she lay in her cot again, Lyra could hear the hum of machines, the soft footsteps of humans moving through the outpost, and the quiet determination in every sound. She closed her eyes and imagined what tomorrow would bring: new challenges, new lessons, and perhaps her first chance to fight back. And for the first time in hours, maybe even days, Lyra felt hope. A small, bright spark in her chest. She had been left with nothing, but now she had humans, she had purpose, and she had a chance. Because humans always find a way. They always rise. They always survive. Lyra woke before dawn, the faint glow of the rising sun filtering through the small window of her room. The outpost was quiet, but she could hear soft footsteps and the distant hum of machinery. Today was different. Today, she would leave the safety of the training rooms and step into her first real mission. Her stomach twisted with nerves, but her heart carried a small flame of determination. She had come this far, survived this long, and she was ready to learn what it truly meant to be human in the face of danger. Roran was already waiting outside, assembling a small group of humans for the operation. There were 5 of them, each carrying simple weapons and equipment designed by human hands. They weren't heavily armed, but everything they carried had a purpose. The humans moved with quiet confidence, their faces calm, their eyes alert. Lyra felt a mixture of awe and fear. They had lost everything like her, yet they still stood strong, ready to fight back. "Today," Roran said, his voice steady and firm, "we strike a small supply point the aliens are using. It's a chance to slow them down and gain resources for our people. We move carefully, work together, and remember what makes us human: our courage, our intelligence, and our unity." She could hear the hum of alien machinery in the distance, the sound of their patrols moving through the city. The aliens were strong, fast, and relentless, but humans had a spark they couldn't match. The group moved through the rocky hills surrounding the city, using shadows and natural cover to remain unseen. Lyra's heart raced with every step. She followed Roran closely, mimicking his movements, listening to every instruction. She felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about fighting back, about protecting others, about being part of something bigger than herself. As they approached the supply point, Roran stopped and crouched behind a rock. "Look carefully," he whispered. "Notice the patterns. Aliens move differently than humans. Watch their routines, their timing. Every small detail can give us an advantage. But she noticed something humans had taught her to see: the slight pauses, the repeated paths, the predictable signals. Humans had trained her to notice what others overlooked. Even against superior strength, humans could find weakness through attention, observation, and thinking ahead. Roran nodded at her, signaling to move forward. The team crept closer, using debris and shadows to stay hidden. Lyra's heart pounded, but she focused on what she had learned. Humans survive not by brute force alone, but by working together, being clever, and never giving up. She had to trust that instinct, that training, that human spark inside her. The supply point was guarded by 2 alien machines and a small squad of alien soldiers. Roran whispered instructions, and the humans began their coordinated strike. One human lured the patrol away, while another disabled a machine with a clever improvised device. Lyra followed Roran's lead, moving quickly and quietly, her hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. She planted a small device near a supply crate, designed to distract and disable the aliens without causing harm to any humans who might come later. The device hummed softly and activated, sending a pulse that disrupted the alien sensors. The alien soldiers turned, confused, and the team moved in perfect coordination, achieving their goal with precision. Lyra felt a surge of pride and amazement. Humans could take the impossible and make it work, even when outnumbered and outgunned. But the aliens were not completely unaware. A loud alarm began to sound, and Lyra's chest tightened. "Move," Roran commanded. The team sprinted back toward cover, leaping over rubble, sliding under broken walls, and moving as one. Lyra's muscles ached, but she ran faster than she thought possible. Humans had adapted to survive, and her body had learned to follow that instinct. As they reached a safe point behind a rocky ridge, Lyra looked back at the supply point. The aliens were regrouping, but the humans had achieved their objective. They had disrupted the enemy, gained supplies, and most importantly, proved that humans could fight back. Lyra's chest swelled with pride. She was part of that victory, part of that human spirit that refused to be broken. Roran turned to her, his eyes calm but full of respect. "You did well," he said. "Remember this feeling. Remember that even when we are small in number, even when we have nothing, we can still make a difference. That is what makes us human." She had faced fear and danger, and she had survived. She had learned the first lesson of true human resilience, not just surviving, but fighting back with intelligence, courage, and unity. The journey back to the outpost was quiet but filled with a sense of accomplishment. Each human moved with careful alertness, aware that the aliens could still be near, but confident in their abilities and in each other. Lyra walked among them, feeling the strength of human connection, the unspoken bond that came from shared struggle and mutual trust. Back at the outpost, the humans celebrated in small, quiet ways. Supplies were secured, systems checked, and everyone shared what they had learned. Lyra noticed smiles, laughter, and relief. Even in the midst of war, humans found ways to lift each other, to strengthen the bonds that made them stronger than any machine or weapon. Roran gathered the group and spoke quietly but firmly. "Today, we proved something important. We are human. We survive. We adapt. And we fight back. Each of you contributed to that victory. Remember it. Hold on to it. Let it guide you when the next challenge comes." That was something no alien machine could match. As night fell over the outpost, Lyra sat alone for a moment, looking out at the stars. The city below was still in ruins, and the aliens still patrolled the skies, but she no longer felt hopeless. She had learned something vital: humans could rise even when left with nothing. They could hold their ground, adapt, and win. Lyra's thoughts drifted to the family she had lost. She did not know if they were alive, but she understood now that surviving, learning, and becoming stronger were ways to honor them. She could not change the past, but she could shape the future. She could be a part of humanity's fight, and that mattered. The outpost was quiet now, the soft hum of machines and the occasional murmur of humans preparing for the next day filling the air. Lyra lay down, her body tired but her mind alert. She knew tomorrow would bring new challenges, new lessons, and perhaps new dangers. But she also knew she was no longer helpless. She was part of something greater than herself. She was human, and humans never give up. As sleep began to take her, Lyra's last thought was one of quiet determination. She had faced fear and danger, learned from it, and survived. She would continue to learn, to grow, and to fight. The aliens might be powerful, but they had never faced the full strength of humans united, clever, and determined. And one day, Lyra thought with a small smile, humanity would rise again, stronger than ever. And for the first time, Lyra felt truly ready. The sun had barely risen when Lyra was already awake, her body sore but her mind sharp. The events of her first mission had changed her. She no longer felt like the frightened girl hiding in the ruins of her city. She was part of something bigger, part of a human team that could survive, fight, and even win against impossible odds. Today, Roran told her they would attempt something much riskier, a coordinated strike to disrupt the aliens' main supply lines. It was not a training exercise. It was real. Lyra joined the team in the outpost's main hall, where humans were preparing equipment, checking weapons, and reviewing maps. The energy in the room was tense but focused. Every movement was deliberate. Every word mattered. Humans had learned that in the face of danger, efficiency and cooperation were more valuable than brute strength. Lyra felt a surge of pride just being there. Roran approached her and laid a hand lightly on her shoulder. "You're ready," he said. "Remember what you learned yesterday. Stay alert, think ahead, and trust your instincts. We will need every bit of human ingenuity to succeed." She had trained, learned the patterns of the alien forces, and practiced moving silently, but she knew this mission would test everything she had learned. She could feel the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. This was no longer just about survival. This was about striking back, about showing that humans could fight even when outnumbered, and about protecting the lives of others. The team moved through the rocky terrain toward the alien supply route. Lyra's senses were alert. Every sound, every movement in the distance could signal danger. She remembered Roran's words, "Humans survive because they notice what others overlook." She scanned the landscape, looking for patterns in the alien patrols, listening for the faint hum of machines, and marking safe paths for the group. As they approached the first checkpoint, Roran signaled the group to stop. Ahead, 2 alien sentries were stationed beside a supply transport. The transport was massive, bristling with alien technology and guarded by machines. The humans could not match them in strength or firepower, but they did not rely on that. They relied on cleverness, coordination, and timing. Roran whispered instructions. One team member created a diversion, drawing the sentries away using a small, improvised device that mimicked alien signals. Another disabled one of the guarding machines with a precise pulse, learned through human ingenuity. Lyra's role was to secure the path and prepare the transport for their team to extract critical supplies. Her hands moved quickly but carefully, setting small devices and marking safe paths. Everything went smoothly at first. The diversion worked, the machine was disabled, and the path seemed clear. But then an alarm blared. A sentry had noticed something. Lyra's heart raced, but she remembered her training. Humans do not panic, humans adapt. She quickly scanned the surroundings, spotted a hidden route, and signaled the team to move. They adjusted, moving as one, silent and precise, like a well-oiled machine built from courage and intelligence rather than metal. As they moved, the aliens regrouped and pursued them. Lyra felt the thrill of fear and determination mixed together. She had been terrified once, hiding and praying not to be found. Now she ran with purpose, thinking, planning, and acting. She had become part of something unstoppable, a human team that would not give up. The transport was heavy and slow, but humans had designed a clever system to move it without alerting the aliens. Lyra helped roll and guide it, using levers, pulleys, and gravity. Every movement was calculated. Every step mattered. The humans were turning the enemy's advantage into their own strength. As they approached the extraction point, a larger alien patrol appeared. The team froze, hidden behind rocks and debris. The odds were overwhelming, but humans do not back down when they are outnumbered. Roran whispered a plan: create a distraction, use speed and precision, and exploit the aliens' predictable routines. Lyra followed his lead, her mind sharp and focused. The plan unfolded perfectly. One human drew the aliens' attention with noise and light, another disabled their machines, and Lyra helped guide the transport through the safest path. They moved like shadows, unseen and unstoppable. The aliens were strong, but humans were clever. Humans worked together. Humans adapted. At one point, Lyra had to jump over a gap between rocks while carrying part of the transport. She slipped slightly, her heart stopping for a moment, but another team member reached out and steadied her. The connection was brief but powerful, a reminder that humans survive not alone but together. They lift each other, cover each other, and share the burden. Finally, the team reached the extraction point. The transport was secured, and humans began to retreat toward the outpost. The aliens, confused and frustrated, did not follow immediately. The humans had won this engagement through intelligence, cooperation, and ingenuity rather than sheer force. Lyra paused for a moment to catch her breath. She looked around at her team, at humans who had lost everything yet still stood tall and strong. She realized that the fight was far from over, but humans had proven something vital. Even against superior enemies, they could win. Even when left with nothing, humans could rise, strike back, and survive. Back at the outpost, the team was met with quiet cheers and nods of approval. Supplies were stored, reports made, and preparations for the next mission began. Lyra felt a deep sense of satisfaction. She had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty, and she had survived. More than that, she had contributed to a human victory. Roran approached her again, his expression calm but proud. "You've grown," he said. "You've learned to think, to act, to adapt. You've seen how humans turn impossible situations into opportunities. Never forget this. Remember how it feels to succeed, even when the odds are against you." She had seen firsthand the power of human determination, creativity, and unity. The aliens might be powerful, but humans had something no machine or weapon could ever match: courage, intelligence, and the will to survive. That night, Lyra walked alone along the ridge outside the outpost. She looked down at the city in ruins, at the alien machines patrolling the distance, and at the stars above. The destruction was vast, but so was the human spirit she had witnessed today. Humans could rise from nothing, adapt, and fight back. They could turn fear into courage, weakness into strength, and despair into hope. Lyra thought of her family, of all she had lost, and of all the humans who had stood beside her. She realized that survival was not enough. Humans fought to protect each other, to rebuild, and to reclaim what had been taken. That was the essence of humanity. That was the spark that no alien could extinguish. She returned to the outpost, her steps steady and purposeful. She felt tired, her body aching, but her mind was sharp and focused. She had learned more in a single day than she could have imagined. She had seen humans at their best, creative, courageous, and united, and she knew the fight was far from over. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new dangers, and new opportunities. But Lyra was ready. She had learned that humans survive not because they are the strongest, but because they are clever, adaptable, and determined. They fight together, protect each other, and never give up. As she lay down on her cot that night, Lyra felt a deep sense of purpose. She had found her place, her strength, and her resolve. The aliens might be powerful, but humans had something stronger: the spark of hope, the power of unity, and the unyielding will to rise again, no matter what. And Lyra knew, without doubt, that humanity would rise again. The dawn broke over the rocky hills, casting a pale light over the outpost. Lyra stood at the edge, looking toward the city that had once been her home. Smoke still rose from some buildings, and the alien patrols moved in the distance, but she felt no fear. Today would decide more than just survival. It would decide whether humanity could reclaim what had been lost, whether humans could rise even when left with nothing. Roran gathered the team in the central hall. Their faces were determined, focused, and tired, but there was no hesitation. Every human present had lost something, but every human had learned to fight, adapt, and survive. Lyra felt a surge of pride. She had trained, fought, and learned from these people, and now they would strike at the heart of the alien occupation together. "Today," Roran said, his voice steady, "we take the fight to the aliens. We strike where it hurts, not with numbers, but with strategy, unity, and human ingenuity. Remember what you've learned. Observation, timing, and cooperation are our greatest weapons. Stand together, think ahead, and trust each other. Humanity never gives up." She remembered the first moments of the attack, the fear, the loss, the moments when she had felt helpless. Now she was ready. She was not alone. She was human, and humans never give up. The team moved out in the early morning light, using every lesson they had learned. Lyra stayed close to Roran, following his signals, scanning for dangers and observing the alien patterns. The supply lines, the patrols, the defensive positions, they all had weaknesses, and humans had learned to find them. Even when outnumbered, even when outgunned, humans could turn the odds in their favor with intelligence, creativity, and coordination. As they approached the central supply depot, the alien presence increased. Machines patrolled the area, weapons glinting in the sunlight. Lyra felt the familiar rush of adrenaline but stayed focused. She remembered Roran's words: "Humans survive because they think, adapt, and act together." Each step, each movement had a purpose. The team split into small units, each with a clear objective. Lyra's role was critical. She was to disable the energy shields protecting the depot. Using improvised tools designed by humans, she moved quickly, quietly, and precisely. Every device she set, every wire she adjusted, was a small act of human ingenuity, a demonstration that humans could take what was impossible and make it work. The aliens noticed something was wrong. Alarms blared and red lights flashed. Lyra's heart pounded, but she did not panic. She focused, adjusted the final settings on her devices, and signaled the rest of the team. Within moments, the shields flickered and went down. The humans had created a small window of opportunity, and they moved with speed and precision. Roran led the main strike, the team moving like a single unit. Humans dodged, rolled, and used the environment to their advantage, never relying on brute strength alone. Lyra followed, helping her teammates navigate through obstacles and alerting them to dangers ahead. Each human acted with purpose, intelligence, and unity. Even the alien machines, powerful as they were, could not match the coordination and creativity of humans working together. The fight was intense but brief. The humans moved faster, smarter, and more decisively than the aliens expected. Supply crates were seized, critical equipment disabled, and strategic points taken. Lyra found herself facing an alien officer, the one she had glimpsed months ago, responsible for much of the destruction of her city. She froze for a moment, memories of loss flooding her mind, but she remembered her training. Humans survive by thinking, acting, and working together. She did not act alone. She moved with her team. Using clever tactics, Lyra and her team forced the officer to retreat, cutting off his support and creating confusion among the aliens. The humans had turned fear into strategy, weakness into strength, and despair into determination. Lyra felt a surge of pride and relief. They were winning. They were proving that humanity, even when left with nothing, could rise, fight, and triumph. As the final alarms fell silent, the humans secured the depot. Supplies were gathered, machines repurposed, and communications restored. The aliens had been pushed back, forced to retreat and regroup. Humans had achieved something extraordinary, not through sheer power, but through courage, intelligence, and unity. Lyra stood among her team, breathing heavily, exhausted but exhilarated. She looked around at the faces of humans who had survived loss, fear, and despair, and now stood victorious. They had fought together, adapted, and triumphed. She felt a deep sense of belonging and pride. She was human, and humans never give up. Back at the outpost, the humans worked to repair the city. Survivors were rescued, supplies distributed, and systems restored. Lyra helped where she could, feeling the power of human cooperation. Every small action mattered. Every human who contributed made a difference. Even in the ruins, humanity's spirit shone brightly. That evening, Lyra walked to the edge of the outpost, looking out over the city she had once called home. Smoke still rose in some areas, but the streets were quieter, safer. Humans moved through the rubble, rebuilding, recovering, and standing together. She thought of her family, of the friends she had lost, and of the humans who had fought alongside her. She realized that survival was more than staying alive. It was about rising, protecting, and building for the future. Roran approached her quietly. "You've come far," he said. "You've learned, grown, and contributed. Today, humanity proved something vital. Even when left with nothing, we rise. We fight, we survive, and we will continue to do so together." Humans would rise again and again because they were human. The night settled over the outpost, calm and quiet, but alive with possibility. Lyra stood at the edge, looking at the stars, feeling a sense of hope and purpose she had never known before. The fight was not over, but humanity had won a crucial victory. They had proven that courage, intelligence, and unity could overcome even the greatest threats. Lyra thought of the door Roran had held open for her months ago, when she had been left with nothing. She had stepped through that door into safety, training, and purpose. Now she realized humanity itself was like that door, an opening to hope, strength, and survival, even when all seemed lost. She turned back toward the outpost, where humans worked quietly and determinedly. She knew there would be more challenges, more battles, and more dangers ahead, but she also knew something else. Humanity would never give up. They would rise, adapt, and protect what mattered. And she would be part of it, standing, fighting, and surviving, as humans always did. Lyra took a deep breath, feeling the cool night air fill her lungs. She felt alive, ready, and determined. She had been left with nothing, but she had gained everything: hope, purpose, and the knowledge that humans could face anything and still rise. And as she looked at the stars, she smiled, knowing that humanity would endure. Humanity would prevail. Humanity would rise again, stronger than ever.